If I had to name my favorite sewing tool besides my sewing machine, it would be the seam ripper. Hello quilters, I'm Shelley Robson from the Quilted Forest, and today I want to talk to you about seam rippers. They're an important tool for a quilter when they've made a mistake. I'm going to show you some of my favorite methods to rip out seams and some of my favorite seam rippers. And make sure you hit like and subscribe so you can see more of our videos in the future. A quilter should be able to rip out a seam almost as fast as she made it. So let's get started and see different methods. If you're still using Grandma's seam ripper, it's time to buy yourself a brand new one. You'll be amazed at how sharp and nice the new ones are. One method for taking the stitches out is to just go under every single stitch and pull the thread through. This is the method that my grandmother taught me, and I think she taught me this method because it would take the longest and kept me busy for a long period of time. That was probably a pretty smart grandma move. Another method for taking out stitches on an item is to just cut through every third or fourth stitch, and then you can pull apart gently and those stitches rip through quite quickly. Just every third or fourth stitch, go ahead and cut all the way through it, and then take your pieces, gently pull apart, and those stitches just come right out. And then there's just a little cleanup of getting the little threads out of there. A method that I used for a long time would be to cut every 10th or so stitch. And this is one I will still use when I'm kind of doing something that's maybe a little bit more delicate. And then I'll get that out of there. And then from the back side, I can pull a little bit, a little longer piece of thread. And then the next one goes a little bit faster. And I can just pull those threads all the way through. My favorite method to use is to put the red tip on the inside of the seam, and you're going to want to lay this flat so you've got it like this in between there. So the red tip is on the inside, and then you're just going to slide the seam ripper along the seam. You have the red piece in the inside so that you can keep the sharper point from cutting into the fabric. You can rip out an entire strip of fabric in seconds. So even if you've sewn it wrong, that entire thing just came out. We're going to see just how long it takes me to rip out 2 jelly roll strips that were sewn together. "26 seconds. That is the beauty of this method. Use a lint brush to catch all those little pieces of thread that are on your sewing table. Another use for your seam ripper is to cut out the center of a buttonhole when you are making buttonholes for clothing or for decorative items. You're going to want to put the point of the seam ripper right at the end. You're going to go in, and now you can see that on both sides, and then you're just going to slide it along. I usually go about halfway, and then I turn it around and I go from the other direction. That way I make sure that I don't cut all the way through the end of the buttonhole. And then I have a perfect buttonhole. I'll do it one more time here. Perfect buttonholes. Another use of a seam ripper is if you need to cut through multiple layers, like for a dart or something like that, you just poke the seam ripper in and follow the line that you need to cut through. And it cleanly cuts apart the pieces. It works a little bit better than a scissor because you can stop at a very specific point and not go any farther than you meant to. How long have you had your seam ripper? If you've had it for a long time, it could be getting dull. This little blade inside there, right there, will get dull especially if you've used it a lot. So your seam ripper may need to be replaced occasionally. One of my favorite seam rippers is the Clover seam ripper. What I like about it, it has a rubber grip here, so it's really easy to hold on to. The handle is a little bit heavier, and the blade on the inside here is nice and sharp. This seam ripper is also a Clover seam ripper. What I like about it is that it has this cap so that when you're traveling or you have it laying on your sewing machine table, it won't accidentally poke you because you've lost track of it. Another one of my favorites, this one is retractable so that when you're not using it, it can be tucked away and it won't get you, and very safe for when you're taking it on the road. My favorite seam ripper is the one that came with my sewing machine. What I like about it is that it doesn't roll away. It's not going to roll away on you because these little bumps stop it from rolling, and it tucks away inside itself, so it's easy to travel, and also the blade is very sharp, one of the sharpest I've ever used. Another really handy seam ripper is the one that's the 4-in-1 tool by Alex Anderson. This one is really great because the seam ripper is tucked inside here. It has grippers on the wood here, and so that makes it really nice and easy to use. It just tucks right into your hand, very comfortable to use. Besides the seam ripper, you also have a flat-ended presser. This is used for finger pressing, folding, and burnishing. On this end, you have the pointed wood end. You can use that for turning bias tubes, creating perfect corners, and stuffing doll parts. On the inside of that one is a extra long stiletto, and this is perfect for protecting fingers while you're pressing. You can hold things in place while you're pressing, and for machine piecing, you can send things through the machine using the stiletto instead of your fingers. And that is the 4-in-1 Essential Tool by C&T Publishing. So, to recap, yes, you do need more than one seam ripper. I have multiples of some of them, and then a few extras just in case. If you're enjoying our videos, make sure you hit like and subscribe so you can see more in the future. Thanks for watching, and happy quilting!